Today we're talking about some of my favorite books from 2023. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today we are wrapping up a series that I have put off for a bit of a minute. You remember at the end of 24, I said I needed to wrap up my favorite and least favorites from 2023. So I wrapped up my least favorites series. That was back in December, I think. And I wanted to make it a point to get my most favorite or my 5-star favorites from 23 out of the way in January so that we could move on into new things for 20, like recapping 24 and pushing on into 25 and everything like that. So that is what today's episode is all about. These are the last segment of my 5-star reads from 23, and I'm so happy to share these with you guys today because they are some of my favorite books from 23. Before we get into it, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. So like I said, this is pretty straightforward. These are 3 titles that got 5 stars in 2023. I think the original list was like 9 books, so like 9 books got 5 stars in 23, and this was the last of them for me to talk to you about. I have talked about these books on my channel already because I have read them and reviewed them already. But yeah, this set, these 3, I'm so excited to share them with you again today because they were seriously some of my favorite from 23. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. The first book I'm going to talk to you about today is Black Tide by Casey Jones. Oh my gosh, when I tell you guys, I absolutely adore this book. Okay, let me tell you the premise a little bit. So we have 2 people. A woman who is house sitting a dog on like a lake property for a couple, and then there's a man that is living next door. She kind of wanders over there one night because she sees him sitting by his fire alone. They spark up a conversation. They end up spending the night together, and then when they wake up in the morning, they figure out that the world has basically like stopped for some reason. Like nothing works. None of the electricity is working, like the water's not working. There's these weird things on the beach. Like she had this really strange dream. He had a really strange dream that was really similar. All right, you know what? Let's get in the car. Let's go down the beach and see what's going on. And so they go down the beach and they run into a lot of people that are all saying some like really weird stuff. They see really weird things on the coast. And then in a moment of panic, as everyone is trying to escape something, they end up getting stuck on the beach. And this is kind of their story of how they get to safety and get out of the situation that they're in. This was a really interesting mix of sci-fi and horror. And the way this book was written, I was just so engaged the entire time. I could not look away from this book. It's not even that long. It's a very short book, actually. I think I could have read it in one sitting if I hadn't been like just busy that day because I was so into this book. I think that the character work done in this book was phenomenal. Like in such a short space, Casey Jones made me care about each of these people so completely, and they're so different from each other. Like sometimes when you get an author that does, like this is a mixed POV of male and female, we definitely get one character that's done a little bit better. Not in this case. Both of these characters were done to perfection in my opinion. And I love the depth that Jones was able to get in such a small space. Some people in the reviews or like critics were saying like this is a mix of Cujo and A Quiet Place. Yes. But not in the way you think, okay? Not in the way you think. This had just so many vibes, okay? And the gore was actually really good. There were some really nice moments in this book. I absolutely love this one. The thing that I'm so disappointed about is that pretty sure this is Casey Jones' debut novel. He doesn't have anything else out. At least he didn't when I checked in 24. I might have to go back now and see if he's got anything coming up because I loved this book, okay? I cannot rave about this book enough. This was such an interesting take. I loved the idea of it. I loved everything on the page. At the end, I do feel like they opened the door for a sequel if he wanted one, but I would also just be happy with the way it ended. Like, either way, I was happy. Like, if he decides to do a sequel, man, I'm going to be all over that. But If he doesn't, I feel like it's a very ambiguous ending that actually worked for me, which is pretty rare. So yeah, highly recommend this book. If you're a horror lover, if you like science fiction, I feel like this mix is just perfect. Lots of good gore moments. The character development and the character work on the page was great. I could not look away from this book. The next book on the list is The Words We Keep by Erin Stewart. Okay, it's funny because when I was talking about my 25 goals and like wrapping up my 24 goals and how I did, Erin Stewart was on the list, and I was like, I can't remember what Erin Stewart wrote. This book, this masterpiece is what Erin Stewart wrote. Okay, I love this book. I don't know, I'm gonna say that like a million more times before the end of the video, but I really did. Okay, this centers around a young girl, not a girl, young woman. She's in high school. I think it's like her junior or senior year. I can't remember quite. But in the previous summer, sometime before school has started up, her sister was having a huge mental crisis, okay? And she eventually gets sent to do inpatient care at a facility. Now, her older sister is coming back from inpatient care and coming home. And this sort of disrupts all of our main characters' life at the moment. One, because literally nobody at school knows what happened to her sister. They don't know that she went to inpatient care. They don't know that she was getting help. They don't know anything about that. And so she feels like she has to keep this secret. And then on the other hand, as her sister is coming home, she feels this immense pressure to, one, show up for her sister, and two, make sure her sister is actually doing okay, because she doesn't want to go back to the time before her sister was in inpatient care. She doesn't want things to sort of fall apart. So we're watching her sort of struggle balancing everything. And then on top of that, she's struggling at school with like academics and stuff, just trying to hold everything together. We're watching her mental collapse in real time, if you will, as she's trying to just desperately hold her life together. The Words We Keep, this references a project that she's doing at the school with another student, and it sort of turns into this big magical thing that they get the whole school involved with. It's really touching. This book is a mental spiral, okay, done in the most beautifully realistic and relatable way. You can just see her coming apart at the seams as we keep going, and you just keep hoping somebody is going to see her, somebody is going to help her, somebody is going to step up for this young woman, and we get to see that, we get to witness that. I will say this has a lot of triggers in it, okay? I would definitely check the trigger warnings before you decide to read this book. If you struggle with anything related to mental health or suicide ideation, anything like that, you need to check the trigger warnings so you're a little bit more prepared. I would say this book for me is like All the Bright Places, but better. I read All the Bright Places, okay? Absolutely broke my heart. But there were parts of that book that I absolutely did not like. This book is better, in my opinion. I love The Words We Keep. I think that it was balanced really well. The plot line was very solid. I loved the character work done in this book too. Like, I felt like in All the Bright Places, the character work was lacking a little bit. This is not, okay? I would always recommend this above All the Bright Places. I loved this book. I just fell in love with every moment of this book, every piece of this book. I love this book. And yes, I am going to try and read Erin Stewart again this year. The only reason I am shying away, again, is because Erin Stewart writes mostly YA and just trying to move away from YA. But this book, this blew me away. It really did. I absolutely loved this story. The last 5-star read from 23 was Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This book, okay? I did this on audio and I really, really liked it, okay? I thought that the audio was done really well. This book is following a young woman that family has had a tragedy, okay? Her sister died in a very mysterious type of way, and so she moved off reservation to go to school, and in doing so she kind of disconnected from her family. And then all of a sudden she starts having, around the time of her sister's death anniversary, she starts having these very vivid dreams that end up crossing over from dream into reality. And so she decides, I'm going to go home, I'm going to seek the help of my mothers and my aunts, and I'm going to get to the bottom of what's going on. This ended up being an indigenous folklore horror, but It was not as horror-ish as I was hoping, but in a good way, okay? Because I know when I say that, usually it's like, oh, you were disappointed. I wasn't disappointed because the storytelling was done really well. The character work, really well. The backstories, really well. Everything was done in a way that I loved, and so I didn't mind that it wasn't so horror heavy, especially at the beginning. Now, it really does come in clutch in horror at the second half and towards the end, but I feel like the groundwork that they did here was so engaging that I didn't care that it wasn't horror the whole time, you know? This book was very feminine based, which I just loved, okay? Usually when we read Indigenous books, it is not completely centered, but it's very centered around generational trauma, generational pain, healing from generational trauma, okay? That's pretty prevalent in all Indigenous books, and I think it's a beautiful thing to read. In this book, we see these women. Ooh, my cat is playing with the door. In this book, we get to see these women all kind of band together, and we see the steps of them working through their generational trauma together in order to heal. And I absolutely loved that aspect of the story. And then, like, also just the horror aspect. I love Indigenous horror, okay? And I love it from all different types of cultures, okay? Like, last year in 24, I read The Road of Bones. That is Indigenous folklore horror too, but from a completely different area of the world than this one is from. Hello? What are we doing? Anyway, that's kind of beside the point, but I think that this really hit the nail on the head, okay? This gave me everything I didn't know I wanted in one book, and I had such a great time with it. My husband actually did this one on audiobook too, and he ended up telling me that he really liked it. He was super engaged, which this is not the type of stuff that he listens to, okay? I just happened to have it on our audiobook app that we share, and I said, hey, I have this on the audiobook app if you want to listen to it. And he said, actually, yeah, I do want to listen to that, and then we can talk about it. And he actually ended up really liking it, and he's never read Indigenous folklore. He's not a big horror fan, and he really liked it. So I don't know, I feel like this could be something for like a wide range of readers, because it's not all horror and gore and everything, but it's also not all contemporary fiction or anything like that. I think it's a really nice mix of a lot of things, and I fell in love. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. Yeah, this was a short one. That's okay. I loved these books. I really did. And that concludes this segment of Best Books from 23. I know it's like 25. 23 seems like so long ago. But like, good books to me, I remember them forever. I will remember these three forever, okay? Anything that hits the 5-star, I'm probably going to remember forever. And I love talking about these books. This was my favorite set. From the 23 set that we did, this was my favorite one. I loved these books to pieces. They were absolutely incredible. Jessica Johns, I have not read more of her stuff, but she's on the list to read again. Erin Stewart, I haven't read anymore. Like I said, Erin Stewart was supposed to get read again in 24, and I just didn't make the time. And Casey Jones, I'm going to be on the lookout, because that's the only thing that he's written. And I loved that book, okay? So I'm going to be on the lookout for Casey Jones to see if he comes out with anything else. Make sure you get all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week. And that's all I really have for you guys today. It has been such a weird week. I was so happy to get to sit down and chat with you guys. I didn't really know what I was going to do for today's episode, but I'm so glad it was this. Like, I'm so glad that January panned out this way, that I could get this in January and we can move on, because there's so many other things I want to talk to you guys about in February. I'm glad we could conclude this segment basically, and then we can move on. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you all next time. Bye.